Clear prop.
What is up, YouTube? So a little bit of heartbreaking news. My plane is going to be grounded for at least the next month or two. My trip back from Florida was uneventful. I got back no problem. A couple days later, I went to fly, and when I flipped on my main ignition switch, or the main power switch, the breaker popped for my main display. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. That's never happened before. Reset the breaker, flip the power off, flip it back on, the breaker pops, same thing. So unfortunately, my main display, my TrueTrack display, is dead. And to make matters worse, the company TrueTrack does not exist anymore. They don't make this display anymore, and I've searched everywhere online and I can't find a backup one. So basically what that entails, and you can see my panel right here, so I've already removed it. This is the wiring harness for it. So this is was my TrueTrack display, and I actually took it apart and I found a tiny little, like 2 to 3 millimeter transistor that was blown. And so I figured, well, I solder quite a bit, I can try and do that. So I bought a microscope and practiced soldering little tiny components, and I actually replaced that blown transistor, and the unit's still dead. So I'm guessing that something downstream of that transistor that I can't find, there's no burn marks, there's nothing else inside. It was hard enough to find that one transistor that was blown, but I'm guessing that something else further downstream is bad, and so then when you apply voltage to it, the transistor blows. So yeah, like I said, I tried everything that I could because I can't get this unit anymore, and it is dead. And at least I'm back here at my hangar in San Antonio, so the plane can sit here for a while. To make matters worse, the autopilot and all of the engine data comes through that device, through the TrueTrack. So I mean, I have 3 sets of, I've got my GPS right here that I get instruments on. I've got standby gauges right here that I get information on. I've got my backup display that I get information on. I've got 3 sets of backup gauges for flying, but the only place that I can get my engine data is on this TrueTrack display that's dead. In terms of like my RPMs, my oil pressure, my oil temperature, cylinder head temperatures, EGTs, you name it, it was all on this display. So that means, and I knew that this was coming eventually, I was hoping that it wasn't coming this soon, but that means basically a complete overhaul of avionics. So the engine information system is going to have to be replaced. The autopilot servos are going to have to be replaced, and so that's going to be a pretty expensive overhaul and a pretty big project. Now what I'm planning is this device right here. This is my Grand Rapids Technology, my GRT EFIS. And so what I'm going to do, at least in the short term, is I'm going to have them move this over here, and that's a pretty big project just in itself. This panel here actually has to be recut because this opening is bigger than what the GRT has. This wiring harness is going to have to be rewired for the pin configuration for the GRT because it's different with the TrueTrack. And so I'm going to have them move this over here, just put a blank panel right there, and at least hopefully in the next month be able to get me up and flying again. We'll replace the engine information system with a GRT branded EIS, and then I'm going to replace the autopilot servos with GRT autopilot servos. So everything is going to be GRT in this plane from now on. And the reason that I'm going to have to do it in stages, well, one, to stomach the cost, because it's not going to be a fun upgrade. But the other thing is that the GRT unit, if I wanted to buy another one to put on the left side, it has a lead time right now of 12 weeks because of the chip shortage and COVID and everything else. So even if I bought one today, I would not be able to install it or have it installed until 3 months from now, maybe January, February at the earliest. So at least if we move the GRT over to my side, just put a blank panel in there, the engine information system I can get with about a 4-week lead time, and once we move that from the right side over to the left side in front of me, the wiring harness behind that will stay the same. We won't have to do anything. So once I can get in the newer device, then it'll be a simple plug in the harness in the back, 4 screws bolted into the dash, into the panel, and be ready to go. I'll have 2 displays again. So it was really, really sad to hear that. Not going to be able to fly for at least a month, 2 months probably with this project. So we'll have to figure out a way to at least get it up to Arkansas, to where they do the avionics. We're probably going to have to install some temporary engine gauges just for that flight, so at least I'll have oil pressure, oil temperature, and RPMs on some old style gauges, and at least have something to get the plane up there safely, and then we'll be able to start the avionics overhaul. So I will keep you guys updated with the progress, but really sad that I will not be able to fly for a little while. So till then, take care.